All right, we're recording, we're good? I think so, right? All right.
I think it's all
Um,
set.
Thank you. Well, good morning, guys. I know looks like it's a little bit of a smaller group, but thank you all for joining us today. I know this time of year is still a bit of madness, and we're recovering from onboarding and offboarding and orientation and all that good stuff. I know right now we're also starting in training exams, and there's a lot of other things going on, but we really appreciate you guys spending this morning with us. So to get started, Cassie, I had you first just to go over the rest of the like, offboarding stuff like the exit checklist and health stream modules that you've been sending. So take the wheel.
All righty, so give me just one moment. I'm just going to share my screen. So just a reminder, we did all those exit checklists. Now all the coordinators need to do their part. Hold on just one second. Let me pull up my, there we go. So when it comes to the exit checklist, you all should have an exit checklist urgent task over here that says waiting for program responses, or you may have some that are for approval. Either way, go in, click there. Let me find one that I can actually kind of do. So you'll have a list that says program responses, waiting for program responses. Whoever Nicholas Cohen's is, I'm not going to submit it, but so if you're waiting for program responses, you'll see this part up here. This is what the trainee filled out. And then you need to go down through and check all of these boxes here. Make sure all the scores are in. You already did your verification form. Make sure you collect the badge, their parking tag. If they are staying on as a faculty member, obviously you don't need to collect their parking tag, but they will need to get a new badge. So either collect their resident fellow badge, work with them to get their new faculty badge, whatever, but you do need to make sure that you take back that residency badge and they get a new one. Collect their cell phone. This is super duper important. We've run into a few hiccups that, people have left and they didn't collect their phones. That's a problem because that is a UMass asset. Somebody's got to pay for that somehow. And we're getting back phones from people that graduated like a year ago that were still active, that GMU is still paying for. So please make sure that you're collecting those cell phones. Melissa has sent out the instructions on how to collect them, the spreadsheet, where to drop them off, and then click that button that makes sure you deliver them to the IS office down on level B. Hit that submit checklist button. I'm not going to do it now, but once you do, you'll get, oops, sorry. There'll be another set of exit checklists for approval. So you click review checklist. All you got to do is approve checklist, submit review. This was our first year doing this, so I know this kind of seems like a couple extra steps. I'm going to change it so I'm going to change it for next year to kind of pare it down a little bit, make it a little easier, because this approval, seems like a couple extra steps. But that's all you got to do. Hit that submit review button, and everything you'll see is already all set. So you just got to do that first step, check off your things, go to the next one, approve it. Unfortunately, you cannot do them in bulk. You do have to do them one at a time. I am asking that these are done by the end of the month. It shouldn't be too much of heavy lifting, as by now you should have already collected all the cell phones and badges and all that fun stuff. So please make sure that that's getting done. So just in case you're unaware of how this all works, let's look at Cohen. So once you do all of that, the alumni tab for anyone that's graduated, now you're able to get their contact information for after graduation. If you guys collect this information for your own alumni files, you can run a report to pull just this data if you'd like. And then also you can view their checklist. You know, oh, where did Nick go after graduation? You can find all of that information here as well. Okay, so that's how that all kind of flows together. It's just another integration that we're trying to do to kind of keep everything in one spot instead of having to go to 50 million different files to look for information. As well with terminations and stuff, we have everyone that has terminated should have a copy of their graduate certificate in MedHub. If you ever need to get a copy or anything, you still have access to every single person that has ever been in MedHub, even if they graduated like 3-4 years ago. You still have access to them. They still have a profile in here. You can still pull their documents and things like that. So if you ever get a verification, you know, something's missing from your paper files, you're moving away from paper files, you can always find everything straight in MedHub. Like here's a Haytham. He was one of the first people that was in MedHub in anesthesia. So he still has, you know, see, he graduated in 2018. So he still has his profile in here. You can still access their information. Okay.
Random question, Cassie. If you
Sure.
get an updated email address for them, can you update that in MedHub so you don't have to go back?
In the alumni?
Yeah, like if, because sometimes, you know, you reach out to them for something and they give you an updated email address. Could you update that in MedHub? Or if you know that they've moved to another job, say they finish fellowship and they move to another job, is that something you can add in there?
I don't think so. Let me see. Let me see if I can do it from the GME side, which should be a little frustrating. Yeah, on the GME side, we can update that. I might be able to change, we'll see if we can get that changed with MedHub to, so coordinators can edit this as well. I would think that would be a lot more beneficial to have you guys be able to edit this and keep it updated for your own records instead of having a, hey, GME, can you change this for me? Let me look into that. Because like I said, there's my GME view and obviously I can change it, but you saw on the alumni side that you cannot, because you can also add comments down here and stuff. So would be a good way for you guys to be able to keep that updated. I will make a note of that and follow up with MedHub.
One other thing I just want to clarify in the checklist, when we developed that checklist, in terms of the returning of the cell phones, we implemented in the checklist previous year's practice, which was having you guys bring them downstairs. This year during our IS meetings, the new person in charge of cell phones didn't want to have like a group of people coming down on a regular basis, dumping off, you know, 20, 10, 5 phones at a time. So there is another sheet in addition to the spreadsheet that you need to fill out to collect the phones and write down the asset numbers and all of that. There is another sheet in there that I do need you to fill out that just provides us with your name, your program, your location, your office location, and then the days that you're in the office. IS will come and pick up the phones. So they want to sort of control, you know, how many they're taking in, getting them checked in and not getting sort of bombarded on particular days. So if you haven't done that, please go in there and provide your information. I'm going to give the link to Peter in desktop services on the clinical side, and then he's just going to check those, and based on whatever you've put in there, I think I asked for your phone number too, just in the event that, you know, he shows up but you're not there, that he can reach you, and then he's going to just pick them up from locations. If for some reason you are going to be on vacation, there's going to be nobody there that could do it for you, just reach out to me. We could have GME as sort of like a backup location. I have a couple phones here that they're going to pick up. So if we need to, we can have phones picked up from our office.
I submitted that form and I haven't heard from anyone. And I did that maybe like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, I need to give him the link. I was waiting for more people to like fill it out. So I'm going to give him access to that. And then he's going to start reaching out to people. And that includes people up in Fitchburg, Hanneman, Memorial. So they're going to come out to you guys and gather everything. Just make sure you have everything together. So if you have a box or a bag or something, that makes it easy. And then the tracking sheet, if you have that with all of the devices, so that they can just come and pick it up, and then they'll take care of, checking everything in and making sure everything is taken off of the GME cost center.
All right. Let's see. I am going to move on to HealthStream real quick.
There's a question in the chat before you move on from Hilda.
Yeah,
For sure.
so he does keep his phone, Hilda. When they change programs, they keep their phone until they're done with their training completely. And when they're leaving UMass Chan, that's when they should be turning it in.
Thank you.
Even if they're staying at UMass after graduation, you need to collect their phone. Those are not, they get a different phone when they become a faculty or something like that. Those are just GME phones. Those are only for residents and fellows. But yes, if they switch programs, they take that phone with them.
Okay, great, thank you.
And I know Michelle said that she brought them down. It's fine if somebody brought some down to B level already, not a big deal. But I think they just wanted to prevent sort of an onslaught of people or a steady stream of people coming in, because I don't know how many folks down there actually check in the phones. And so it ends up being like a backlog, and they don't have a big amount of space down there. And all of a sudden they have all these phones that they have to deal with. So I think he wants to just sort of, spread it out, if you will.
I got another question as well. If someone signed up on the form and they haven't heard from the contact to pick up the phones, they can't finish their exit checklist. So just as a heads up that if the phones aren't picked up by end of the month, we may not be able to finish that checklist until the phones are picked up. Is that, or do you want us, as long as we have them all, to just check off?
Yeah, I think as long as you have physically collected them all, you have them all. Check those two boxes off, the collected and the dropped off.
Like I said, this is our first time, and our process kind of changed midstream. So we'll make sure that that's a little bit more streamlined for next year. But yeah, that's fine. As long as you have physically collected them all, you've done all the other tasks on there, check all those off, approve the checklist. That's fine.
So one of our residents went to the psychiatry fellowship in Queen Street. Does she still keep hers?
No, because
That's
that's
what I
not a
thought.
GME fellowship, correct? Yeah,
That's what I thought. I just needed to hear it. Thank you.
you're welcome. Anybody else before we move on? Good. Awesome. Always you reach out, ask us questions where we something comes up later. So HealthStream. Real quick, if anyone says like, oh, I don't know what my clinical username is, they need that clinical username in order to get into into HealthStream. That is in their demographics, so you can find it here. Their demographics, it's right here. Clinical employee ID, clinical. That's what they need to access HealthStream. If they forget their password, right here, contact IS Assistant to log in. Now, when it comes to the HealthStream modules, anyone that has a social security number has access to HealthStream. There are two new incoming that I do not have social security numbers for. I have sent emails to those folks. People that have just recently sent me their social security number, they just got an account. Please make sure that they're logging in and getting this done. I'm not 100% sure on what they set those people's due dates for because of getting into HealthStream later. I know there's due dates coming up on 7/31. There's ones in August, there's ones in September, there's ones in October. It's rolling depending on the module, depending on if they're a reappointed or a new incoming, all those fun things. As I say in my email, I cannot tell, I know that there's people that are graduating before due date. I get that. I cannot tell you that they do not have to do them. I cannot say that. I'm a third-party person on this. All I'm doing is making sure that people are getting these HealthStream modules done so they are not pulled from service. GME doesn't have to track this. We could just, you know, because they've been assigned the module, they're grown adults, they should be doing them. We stepped in to help to make sure that they're getting them done so they're not getting pulled from service randomly. Please make sure that they're getting these modules done. This is important. I know we talk about this every year, but it has to get done. They have to do these. They have to do these. There's no two ways around them. They've been assigned to them since the new incoming have had this since April. The reappointments have had it since May. So it's been, you know, a good chunk of months. They need to get it done. If you need to set some time aside during didactics or something like that, like, hey, today, everybody get your modules done. Please do that. That's all, you know, that's all I got, unfortunately. I know there's some confusion on the spreadsheet that there's still some people on there that have been terminated. I'm working on it. Just bear with me. If people aren't showing up on your list, that means they're all done. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about the HealthStream stuff? No, good. All right, I'm going to continue sending those spreadsheets weekly until the final due date. Just please make sure they're getting it done. Evade's one of those weird ones. It's so there's a workplace violence module through Evade, and Evade crashes if you don't stay in it, like keep it active. It's weird. If anyone's having trouble with Evade, they went through, they did it, but it's still showing up that they didn't do it, have them email me. I will make sure it's taken care of. I know that's been a sticking point. I think that's all I have on HealthStream. Any questions? I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I've got a lot going on here. Monique, yeah, I got attendance, all set.
You mentioned Evade.
Okay.
Do you know if there is any plans to have the second step of Evade offered via GME? Or should we
Yes,
just have, like,
um,
reach out to the trainers and do it for each program?
You should reach out to the trainers. We're not managing that. We're not a part of that. Fortunately, one less thing for us to have to coordinate on. No, but Chris Slocum, S-L-O-C-U-M, he should be in the GAL. He's the one that's kind of spearheading this whole Evade thing with the next, I think there's a step 2 and a step 3. So if that's something that you want to do with your program, reach out to him. So it's Chris Slocum, S-L-O-C-U-M. He'll be able to help you get that set up. And that's not mandatory. The other 2 levels of Evade are completely elective. You don't have to do it, but if you want to do that in your program, you are more than welcome to.
And I know Kimi Kobayashi has spoken at GMEC about the second level of aid and was, you know, looking for feedback from programs and program directors specifically. Just knowing that it's, you know, a pretty time intensive commitment, and they were looking for creative ways to sort of work with programs and accommodate trainees, because the training that you get in that level 2 is really important and really applicable to, you know, their everyday lives in the hospital. So if you have ideas or your program director is asking about it, have him or her, you know, connect with Kimi if they have thoughts on how they might partner with them.
Mm.
Because it's
Melissa?
in person too, and it's a few hours, right?
It is,
so it's a
4
time
hours.
commitment. Yeah. And so I think they realize that it's difficult for residents and fellows to be freed up for that amount of time, but they also, you know, are emphasizing the importance of the training. So I think they're willing to work with people to come up with some creative alternatives and ways they might be able to accommodate more people and not have it be such a huge time burden.
Melissa, I received a comment and I actually just tried it myself. The link on the email that was sent out July 11th for the cell phone tracking, it's now giving like an error message for some reason.
Did you just try going just into the drive and just finding the file?
No, I just clicked on the link, but we can have people do that. Maybe
Yeah, I
if we
think whenever
moved
that
it.
happens, the best thing to do is to just go into the drive and then just try and find it. Someone had told me that it was broken and I resent it. And then it was fine. So I'm not sure why it's being fluky, but yeah, if you just go into the main drive, should be able to still get to the file.
Okay, thank you.
I did want to mention PLAs. There's a lot of PLAs that are not done yet, that were supposed to start on 7/1. Going forward, if you do not give us an 8-week lead time, the chances of the PLA request getting rejected are high. We need an 8-week lead time. You can't submit a PLA today and expect the rotation to start on Monday. Not a possibility. That's just not going to happen. You need to work with your program director to make sure that your schedule is set up. You know when these offsite rotations are happening. You have to give us more lead time. You can't be doing, you can't do, just a couple of weeks. It has to be longer than that. And I understand a lot of these, you put them in a good chunk of time ahead of time. This is what I mean. It takes time. You can see all these external site directors aren't signing things. It takes some time. There's also a whole bunch not signed by the program director. Like, you need to make sure that you're reaching out to these sites to let them know, like, hey, this is how we're doing things. If they give you even the slightest pushback, all you have to do.
Are you
Pick
sharing
view
your screen,
PDF.
Cassie, or are you? 'Cause
Oh, I'm
we
so
can't,
sorry.
we can't see what you're doing.
So sorry.
I wasn't sure if you
I'm
meant
so
to, but
sorry.
it looked like you were trying for us to follow along.
I forgot. Sorry about that. So in your view, you'll see obviously just your program. Let me get rid of that. You can see, right? You can see
Yes.
now what I'm doing
Yeah.
in PLAs? Okay, sorry. So you'll see obviously just your program. Scroll all the way over, click view PDF, download this PDF. This is the PLA. And as you can see, signatures. So download it, send it to, your Allison Beckler or whoever needs to sign it and say, hey, if this looks good, just give me a signature, send it back to me. Send me the signed version. What I do is I go to override workflow, and I sign it for that person. So then it just moves it along. If they don't like what's in this PLA language, then we need to start all over again, which is why it's so important to have such a long lead time. If you're setting up a PLA with a site that has never done a PLA before, doesn't know what you're talking about, needs to see some contract language. If you go to Coordinator Job Aids and Resources, go to Offsite Rotations, right here, boilerplate PLA template. This is our basic, straightforward PLA template. As you can see, some of the things are highlighted. Just let the offsite people know, anything that's highlighted, we will fill in. Boop, 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 has all of our contract language and then signatures. If they don't like something, they will send it back to us. We can update it if we need a site-specific PLA template. That's where that comes in. You need to have all of this information ready to go long beforehand. If things need to change, we need an additional signatory, all that fun stuff. I have to do that on my end, and I get it done as soon as I can, but we need that lead time. So please make sure you're doing that. Please make sure you're following up after the fact, because once it's in the signature workflow, it's on you guys to make sure that the signatures are getting done. Melissa and Stacy both get notifications when they have stuff to sign. 9 times out of 10, they're doing it that day or the next day. As soon as that's all done, I get a notification that it's all set and I approve it once I have all those signatures. So please make sure you're staying on top of this stuff. All of the information you need as far as what to do for an offsite rotation, how to set up a PLA, the recording is in here, the slides are in here, the instructions are in the coordinator handbook. There's resources available to you. Please make sure you're going through all of that very carefully, step by step, one thing at a time. Most of the time when people ask me questions, they can be answered in the slides or the meeting recording. So please make sure you're going through that stuff step by step first before reaching out and just expecting GME to help you set this up one step at a time. We provide these instructions for you guys so it's in your hands and you guys can handle it without having to come to us. Please make sure you're reading that stuff. If you have anyone that's on a J1 visa, you need to notify ECFMG that someone's doing an offsite rotation. It's just a quick little form. It's super simple. If you have anyone, if you have people that are going to Health Alliance, Marlboro, St. Bees, Bay State, Melissa, where else do we have masters? What am I missing? Some of the bigger, you know,
Health Alliance,
the bigger
Milford.
Milford, yeah. You need to do a master affiliation agreement addendum. We already have the master affiliation agreement, which is a PLA that covers a bunch of programs. You don't have to do an individual PLA. We have a big one that covers all these different sites, but you do need to do an addendum. So in the folder here, there's our plain addendum that goes for everybody. St. V's is special, so they want it in a certain way. So if you send your people to St. V's, whether it's an elective or a required rotation, if you send people to any other institution, you need to make sure we have some sort of agreement set up. The instructions on how to fill out the form are right here because it's just a fillable PDF and you need to drop information in. The instructions are right here, what information we're looking for in each section. So that's PLAs. Was there something else I was covering? PLAs, HealthStream, checklists.
Yeah,
There's
you're
one other
Schedule
gonna-
at the
thing.
MedHub.
Yeah, you're gonna do
What was that?
schedules in MedHub, but I just want to say one thing about the affiliation agreements. I get the question a lot about the addendums and whether or not they need to be done on an annual basis or they can be done for multiple years. My understanding is that they should be done annually, even though the master is for several, multiple academic years. The addendum is it may change, it may be that you're doing one particular rotation there in this academic year, and the next year, maybe that rotation has changed and the faculty are different and the requirements are different. So I would prefer that you're doing them on an annual basis, just so that the addendums are accurate for the current academic year.
Yeah, so like what it looks like on our end, hold on, let me find Health Alliance here. Oh, Jesus. There we go. So Health Alliance Clinton Hospital, that's the site that you would use if anyone's going to Health Alliance. There's several like hospitals within the Health Alliance. It's Health Alliance Clinton Hospital. That's the site. You can see these are all the programs that go there. We have a master affiliation agreement that goes through the end of this academic year. So what we do on our side is when we collect your addendums, we pop them right in here. So again, if you're going to these sites, please make sure you're sending us the addendums as soon as possible. Because also you need to have an updated roster on there, like Melissa said, if your goals and objectives change, your rotation changes, anything like that, you need to make sure that that's there.
There's
And
a
just one
question in
last
the
thing with-
chat about, do you have one for Quest and Marlboro? And I don't know if by one, they mean a master agreement, but
Yeah, that's what I was assuming. So Diane, if that's not correct, let me know, but we don't currently have a master agreement with Quest.
No. We don't have any open PLAs for Quest. So if you're sending somebody to Quest, make sure you get a PLA in there.
Then the other
Um,
question I got is, so once you do submit the PLAs, we're no longer using away rotations. Do we just like name that rotation? Say like I have someone going to BCH in cardiology or whatever.
I was
Just-
just about to talk about that.
Okay.
Give me one sec. So once you have that PLA in place, one sec. Once you have that PLA in place, you have to make a rotation with that site attached. So when you go to schedules, when you go to service shift management to create your schedule, to create a rotation, you add a service. So the service name, you're going to BCH, let's say you're doing, you know, specialized ED rotation, whatever you want to call it, whatever rotation you're doing at that site. So we'll call it SP. This is where the PLA connects to the rotation. You choose the site here. So Boston Children's. Now you have that rotation and you go over to your rotation schedule and you can pop it in. That's simple. It's just like creating any other rotation. You just need to make sure that the correct site is attached to that rotation. You have to make a specific rotation for that, whatever you're doing. Even if, you know, it's a required rotation down at St. V's, you should have, you know, you can call it whatever you want. You don't have to call it St. V's away rotation. It's, you know, general surgery, but that site is attached to it. That's extremely important, because otherwise, if you're just leaving it as UMass, then we're telling Medicare, oh, they did this rotation at UMass. No, they did that rotation at St. V's. Different. So it's very important that we make sure that all that stuff is set up correctly on the back end. I know it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really affect you that much, but on the back end, we need to have that information accurate 100%. Okay. Any questions on that?
Cassie's asking if the PLA is not signed, then the site won't show up. Is that correct?
If it's a new site, if you had to type in the address and everything instead of choosing it from the dropdown, then yes, that site is not available for you to choose until that PLA is finalized. Because if you have to type in the address and everything in the request form, once it goes through the signature workflow and it gets to me for final approval, that's when I set that site as a site to choose from in the dropdown. Because I have to set up the IMG and the DME percentages, which is, again, a thing you guys don't need to be concerned about. That's an IRIS thing. So if you're requesting a new site, I have to set up the IME and DME percentages. But if the site's available in that drop down when you're doing the request, you're all set. And you could create a rotation before the PLA is finalized.
Garuzzi asked, what's the max duration of a PLA? I replied, per GME 3 years, but I wanted you guys to chime in case I am incorrect.
Yes,
3 years for every site except for VA. VA does it for 5. But other than that, the max duration is 3 years. When you go to, if this is going to be, you know, an elective that you want to be able to offer, maybe somebody doesn't go every year, but you want to be able to have it offerable, set it up for 3 years. Because then you have a PLA for 3 years. You can send a person whenever you want without having to do another PLA. The blankets are always the best way to go. That's what I used to do in anesthesia. We had electives our senior year that you could go to either BCH, Rhode Island, a bunch of different places. I didn't always send someone every year, but at least I had it and it was ready to go. If you set it up for 3 years, the expiration date will be, you know, whatever that's going to be, 26. you'll get a notification when it's ready to renew. I think it's 90 days out, and you just have to go in, do the request all over again, set it as a renewal, and it'll go through the signature workflow again. I do highly recommend setting up 3-year blankets instead of one-off or a year or something like that.
Guruzzi said her PD wants to do 5 years.
He cannot. He may want that, but he cannot.
Yeah, legal has
It's
told
3
us
years.
3 years is the maximum. I mean, unless there's a site that we are very familiar with and have used them for a number of years. I mean, there's a possible that we would make an exception, you know, like for St. V's, say, we may make it a
Yeah.
longer time for them, but for like, I know Lee's using like high schools and things like that, it would only be 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
And one other thing
Any other-
around affiliation agreements, I know a lot of people have asked, we are in the process of developing an additional affiliation agreement with Harrington after the partnership with them, and we're
Merge.
absorbing all of their patients, and so that is coming. I know that there's several programs that want to or have, you know, started already sending trainees there, so that will be coming in the next few months.
And then just for clarification, if you have a PLA for 3 years, you send someone the first year, second year, you don't send anyone, the third year, you want to send someone else, you need an addendum to like specify who's going, or no?
Not an addendum so much as you need to just send us a roster. Just a list of who's going.
Yeah, if
Give
it's,
that to
yeah,
us and to
if
the
it's a
site.
rotation, that it's the same goals and objectives, nothing else has changed, as long as we have an updated list of who potentially will be going to that site in the current academic year. I think it says it in there that like the list will be provided annually. So that's what we would be requiring.
Okay, and then I guess even if it is for 3 years and a PD change, would you need a new one? Or the person that is doing the eval changes, would you need a new one?
I think we have to look at ACGME rules around that. There was some chatter on listservs with DIOs that, you know, they were concerned that that's what they were going to be required to do, that we would have to re-sign PLAs if there's a program director change. I think that sort of fizzled out and the ACGME backed off on that, but I don't want to say that we wouldn't have to until I check. So I'll
Okay.
definitely talk with Stacy about that and look on ACGME to see what their current guidance is. And we'll let you
If
know
you
if
do
that's
have-
something that we'd have to do.
And if you do have any paper PLAs, like from 2019, that goes for 5 years, so it's the end of this academic year that they would end, you don't need to do a new one right now. We're, slowly transitioning over to all PLAs being in MedHub. If you have one that's still active, I'm not going to ask you to redo it. It's fine. I do ask that you just send it to me to make sure that I have it attached to the site in MedHub. But if you've got an active PLA, that's fine. That was already signed previously. Go for it. Once it expires, then I am going to ask you to put it into MedHub. That's all.
And so Cassie, the question in the chat is when that happens, so if you have a current one that is paper only, when they go to put it into MedHub, once it's expired, are we putting it in as a new PLA or as a renewal? Technically it's a renewal, but it's new for the MedHub system.
Yeah, you could check off renewal. That's fine.
And there was a question about Planned Parenthood has been historically 5 years. Moving forward, it will have to be 3 years as well if they have a current PLA that's like
We
fizzling out.
just did one with them for family medicine and I think OB. They may have been 5 because it went through their their parent organization. I don't remember offhand if that one was.
Let me see. So it's Planned Parenthood League of Massachusetts. Let me see what theirs looks like.
So this is Shirley from OB. We have one from Planned Parenthood, but as you were saying, it used to be 5 years, but it's gonna expire in 2024.
Okay, so this one was set up for only 2. That's with the family medicine. Let me see what the OB one looks like. So this is an older one, as you can see. So it was set up for 5 years, the older version. I think we're gonna go with 3 now. When you need to redo that, when you need to renew that at the end of this academic year, Shirley, it'll be for 3. I don't know why this one was only set up for 2, but that's fine. So I think we're gonna go with 3. The VA is the only one that has said we won't do anything less than 5.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ACGME says every 10 years they need to be done, but our legal has said absolutely not. We would not do 10 years. And I think that was their recommendation, and what they are telling us is 3. So we're trying to stick with that in general. But as I said, there could be certain ones where we have partnered with them for a long time, and maybe it's a difficult process, and we make an exception with their approval. So, but in general, I would say 3 years is what you would be doing PLAs for.
Anyone else? Another thing that another little helpful thing that I ran into actually this week with Fairlawn. They were giving me a lot of pushback. They didn't want to sign the PLA in MedHub. They only sign things in DocuSign. Fine. So again, download that PDF, throw it into DocuSign, send it to everybody, have it signed, forward it to me, and I will check it off in MedHub, and it's all set. I know it seems redundant and dumb. I get it. A lot of other sites are like, I don't want to do anything in MedHub. I don't have a MedHub account. Blah, 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 blah. They don't need a MedHub account. MedHub is working exactly like DocuSign. It sends, as soon as one person signs it, it sends an email to somebody else. They just click a link, go in, sign it. I don't know why people are so frustrating about it. I understand, but like, yes. So there's ways around it. You can even have them, send the PDF, have them send you an email back saying, yep, I approve this, forward me that email. As long as we're collecting signatures, however you gotta do it, if we gotta get creative. I know it seems like this isn't very intuitive and isn't as helpful, but I promise you on the GME side, like, it's making things a lot easier to track and stay on top of and make sure everyone's staying in compliance. Last thing I'm going to say on PLAs, if your PLA is not finalized, you are not allowed to send people to that site. Again, same thing with the HealthStream stuff. Like, I can't stop you because I have no control over that, but heaven forbid something happens, their malpractice doesn't not cover them if we don't have an active PLA. And also you get that site visit and they find out that you've been sending people and you don't have a PLA, you're gonna get in trouble. The program's gonna get in trouble. That's a citation right off the bat. Back to plastics. That happened to them and there wasn't, there was a missing date or something weird happened and that turns into a citation. So please make sure you're staying on top of this stuff, taking it seriously. Talk to your PD, get those schedules set. Any last questions before I move on from PLAs? Awesome, thank you. And just last quick thing I'm going to talk about is schedules. As I said in my email, you have to have your rotation schedule in MedHub. If you're an accredited program, you have to have your schedule in MedHub. No ifs, ands, or buts. You have to have your schedule in MedHub. Again, this is for IRIS reporting purposes. We have to know what's going on. You can't just send an Excel spreadsheet. Nope, that does not fly. You have to have your schedules in MedHub. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. If you integrate with Amion or QGenda, or I don't think ShiftAdmin's still working, but Amion and QGenda, if you want to pull that in, you are absolutely welcome to. What's up, Frankie?
I have a quick question. Just
Oh.
For the fellow,
Sure, sure.
the fellows that are starting on August 1st,
Mhm.
do the rotation block dates differ
What was
for
that
them?
again?
You know those rotation block dates that we have, 7/1 to 7/30, 7/31 to 8/27.
Mhm.
Does it differ for them? Like, do we have different dates for, or do they just do 8/1 to 8/7?
No, those 13, if you're on the 13 block rotation, that every 4 weeks, that's set up for an academic year that goes 7/1 to 6/30. And those are based off of the review, the duty hour review period. If you have people starting off cycle like in August, you may need to give them just month-long blocks instead of that every 4 weeks. Or you start your every 4 weeks on 8/1 and go from there. That's there's no standardization as to how you set up your rotation blocks. You don't have to do the 13 blocks or the every 4 weeks. You can do it by months, you can do it by quarters, whatever works best for your program. So to answer your original question, no, I do not have a separate list of dates for a 13 block rotation for someone that starts on 8/1. If you need some help figuring those dates out, I can help you with that. But we in GME do not have a set of dates for those that start off cycle like that. Does that
Yeah,
answer
I
your
can
question?
chime in too. Frankie, I've had a
Okay.
couple off cycles and they're gonna graduate. You know, the graduation end date will be set like end of July, not end of June like everyone else, because they still have to complete that time frame. So they're gonna be off cycle for the entire time. I have 5 programs. One of my programs uses the 13 blocks. One uses every 2 weeks, one does it monthly. So every single one of my programs does it a little bit differently depending on what works for their schedule and the PD. So you can like decide it amongst like your group and your program, what works best for you.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, see, like for example, like in ortho hands, they always start on 8/1. So they have their blocks set up by month, which might be easier if you have someone starting off cycle like that. But again, rotation schedules, because the financial year does not match up with the academic year, you need to have a rotation schedule in MedHub from 10/1/22 through 9/30/23 by the end of this September. You have to, because on 10/1, rotation schedules going all the way back are completely locked to you and to me. I can't even unlock it for you. So on 10/1, that last fiscal year closes because now Iris needs to pull stuff. So if you need to change things from last year, you need to enter from July to September. You need to do this before the end of September. I will be sending, an update monthly. Then starting in September, I'll let you guys know where you're at kind of weekly if we're still got some stragglers going on. But this is your responsibility. Talk to your PDs, stress the importance of this. It has to be done. Exceptions cannot be made after 10/1. I can't do anything. MedHub can't do anything. They will not unlock it. They can't, because then you're messing up data reports for somebody that's already running the reports. So please, 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 please make sure you're getting this done properly. You got to create new rotations, do whatever you got to do, but make sure you're getting it in there. If you need me to unlock anything from last year, I'm happy to do it. I can go all the way back to 10/1/22. So if you need me to unlock all of last academic year for everybody, I absolutely can if you need to make adjustments or changes or anything. So just make sure you're reviewing your schedule from last year. Nothing changed. You've got July through September of this year entered. So yeah, any questions on that? Awesome. And just as a reminder, if you need a refresher on how to do schedules, how to create rotations or anything like that, if you go to Coordinator Job Aids and Resources, you go to MedHub Mondays, Rotations and Sites, let's see, Schedule Rollover and Rotation Creation. Those two are going to be your buddies there. And then if you're a newer coordinator, if you go to the Help button, you go to the Help button, and if you just type in rotation, you're going to get all this information. Master schedule, you know, if you just do, let's say, schedule, do that. Schedules, you just click on schedules. Here's the MedHub handbook on how to do all the different things within within the schedule. So yeah, everything that you need is in there. Alrighty. Any questions before I finish up here? Because I think that's all I've got.
Nancy, could you just talk a little bit about the off-cycle trainees that are starting 8/1, what the coordinators need to do with regards to Epic train, you know, IS training and that kind of thing? Some may not
Thank you.
know for the off-cycle. Thanks.
So I have been in touch with, I think, just about everybody that has off-cycle people. When it comes to training, there's two types. When we say IS training, Epic training, there's two parts when to the training day. When we had all those trainings during orientation, there's two parts to it. In the morning, for the first like 2 hours, they do IS orientation, which is setting up their email, getting their Imprivata, which is the badge. There's a little thingy attached to all the clinical computers that you can badge in to sign in, so you don't have to type in your email and everything like that. You just badge in and out. They're taught how to do that. They get their phone set up, email, network, they go through the hub, all that stuff. Then they take a break and then they do Epic training. Now, when you as a coordinator get them scheduled for an Epic training for off cycle, all they're doing is Epic training. If you need to contact desktop services and say, you know, I need to get their phone set up, I need, you know, a whole desktop training, you need to get that set up as well. It's obviously going to be a much condensed version than what they would have done during orientation. But you also need to come to GME and pick up their phones. I have all of your off-cycle folks' phones in the office. There's also a sheet that goes with it, an information sheet that has all their passwords, email addresses, all their pertinent information that they would have received during regular orientation. If you have any questions about that, Melissa and myself have been working with the desktop services teams, namely Helena. She's our point of contact for all the phone stuff, and she's the one that will kind of help coordinate that. You need to make sure both parts of that are set up. Now, going forward, we are going to try to work with Clinical IS next orientation to have not only that week-long bunch of training dates, but also an off-cycle training date, because I understand it's a lot to coordinate, and more fellowship programs are going to be starting off-cycle, so we want to be able to provide that for you guys. So one less thing for you have to coordinate. If you do have any questions about off-cycle, people like that, make sure you're reaching out to either Melissa or myself, and we can help point you in the right direction. Let me think. Make sure you're getting them their badges, you know, treat them like any other new incoming. So yeah, anything I missed on that? Any questions about that?
The GME orientation, did they already attend, or will they watch a tape?
If they have not, if they were not able to attend the GME orientation via Zoom, we do have that recording. Hold on one second.
Yeah, I'll be sending out the link right to the recording so that, because I don't know if they can get to it. So I'll send out the link that's in the
Oh, yeah.
Google Drive for you, so you can just send it to them. Or once they're here, if you're gonna give them dedicated time to actually do that. But it is
Yep.
in MedHub too.
So the GME welcome, that's Stacy's part, and then we had to divide it up into 2 other parts, but they're all there. And then same thing with all the slides. We have all the slides from all the presentations that were given during orientation, so it's all there and available for you. So you can have them review all of that.
Yeah, the welcome is actually the welcome lunch.
Oh, the welcome
All the
lunch, that's right,
sessions
I'm
from all
sorry.
our leadership that came, and so that's the welcome. And then, yeah, the orientation just got split up into two parts because we had a break in between, a breakout session. So.
And even, you know, you can their presentation, their video presentation, so you can download them yourself and share them if you'd like, save them to a shared drive or something. But if they can't get into MedHub, which they should be able to get into MedHub, I've turned on everybody's access. So that should be all set. Anything else on that? Because I believe that's the last thing I had, so. All righty then.
So I
Jessica,
know
do you
Meg-
mind-
Well, Megan and
stop
Deb
sharing?
have some updates too, so I want to make sure that theirs get in. I don't know, Megan, do you want to go?
Yeah, I can go first. So I just have a few updates with quality improvement and patient safety. So this academic year, patient safety will be held through the programs and not through GMA. So once the program has the class, please send me the attendance with the date the class was held and who the instructor was. We just want to make sure that we get MedHub updated and our compliance tracking sheet. It's helpful for me to get them right after the class and not for everyone to send them at the end of the academic year, because then I just get bogged down with that. So that would be huge if you guys could do that for me. Also with quality improvement, there will be 4 classes through GMA. The schedule is being finalized right now, so I'll send that out next week to everybody. Just to keep in mind, the classes are going to be in person. They're not Zoom, so just keep that in mind when scheduling your folks, okay? It will be in person, it'll be at university campus. So just keep that in mind when scheduling them. That's all I have.
Deb, do you want to go do your visiting residents and a licensing update?
Sure. So I wanted to update everyone with limited licenses for your trainees. As you know, every new trainee that came in this academic year, they were licensed in time to start on their effective start date, which was awesome. Unfortunately, the board did issue the provisionally issued limited licenses again this year. And there are still 93 trainees left to receive their final approval with the board. So what that means is each day I go into the website, I check to see if it was final, if a trainee had their license final approved. If so, I then upload the certificate, upload the information into MedHub. License information is not in MedHub if they're still on a provisional limited license. So the board is now reviewing the ones that are left. If any items are missing, they reach out, they return the application to me. I reach out to the trainee directly to provide the missing items. And I submit that to the board and then they issue. This could go on maybe another month or so. The provisionals, I believe, are good for 60 days. So the board right now is not in a major hurry to get them approved, although that, you know, they're trickling in, maybe 5 a day, maybe 3. One day I had 10. And the trainees, when I reach out to them, they're awesome. They jump right on it. Thank you. So if a trainee asks you for their limited license number, those were all supplied already in the spreadsheets that I had sent out. You can refer to that if they're still on a provisional. it would just duplicate work if I was to upload the provisional letter and the information, and then once the final is approved, I'd have to go back in and add an expiration date, add the certificate. It would be just double the work. So if you have any questions on that, let me know. Most of the missing items that the board is letting me know on are like the ECFMG status report, that some of the trainees forget to go in and they have to order that electronically and have it sent to the board. There is a small fee for that. So if they ever inquire about it to you, that is necessary if they are an IMG and, you know, recently graduated. It's something that has to be ordered. Also, the USMLE transcripts, if those were not available at the time the application was submitted through ERIS, they have to also order that electronically for the board. Sometimes the fellows, a lot of fellows don't go through ERIS or, you know, certain programs. The trainee forgets to do that step as well. So the board did issue the provisional based on the application at that time that they met the criteria, but now to get the final approval, they need to get that stuff done. So Form B also from the medical school is sometimes delayed, and they need to reach out to their med school to have that provided. So if you could just remind those that are still on provisionals, I will send, I actually don't notify you directly. I just automatically put the certificate into MedHub and the number and the expiration date. So if you want to check MedHub, you know, once a week going forward, you may find that many of your trainees are getting final approved. So that's it with licensing. Do I have any questions regarding licensing this year or how it went? Or... Okay, great. So visiting residents, you probably saw a couple emails from me regarding the process and the paperwork and any updates to the packet. Please read through that. The instructions are pretty detailed and clear on what's required. Visiting residents this year has increased substantially. Each year it seems to be increasing, which makes it harder when I receive parts of documents and not the whole packet from the visiting resident. Like I'll have visiting residents that just send me their employee health forms. And then the following week, they'll send me the registration form or other documents that are required. I really want to stress that I'd like to receive the packet complete, because if I get it in piecemeal like that, then I have to keep going back and back, and you know, it takes up a lot more time. And if I can receive the paperwork at least 1 month in advance, it will, you know, there's more of a chance they'll be approved and start on their selected dates of the rotation. So that's really all I have. Just read through the emails that I sent. I will add the updated visiting resident information to MedHub shortly. And do you have any questions on visiting residents at all? One other thing I want to stress is the PLA. I really want to have a fully signed PLA in place before I start processing any paperwork. That portion of the requirement is time consuming. And sometimes we go through that whole process of getting the PLA done and they don't end up, you know, they don't end up coming or something happens. So the PLA is the most important, followed by the packet and employee health clearance and so forth. So that's all I have.
I think Deb also deals with the opposite of that, which is, you know, she would start getting everybody ready to go and gets that process going. And then the PLA is started later. And then we get in this huge delay. And then they're technically able to start, right? They've completed all the other requirements, but that PLA, which is the most important part, is not ready. And we have to tell them it's not signed and they can't start. And then that doesn't really, go over all that well. So we're trying to move to the PLA is the trigger that moves everything else along, so that Deb isn't wasting her time doing all this extra work trying to get people ready when the actual most important document, the agreement that they are going to come here on these dates, et cetera, and do these things, is put in place. So I think moving to that will help save her time, and if everyone can really work hard to try and get complete packets, because she does have to switch gears a lot of times to keep checking information. So
Right, thank you, Melissa. One other major point, if you have a trainee from out of state who wants to come here to rotate and needs a Mass limited license to do so, which they do, we are requesting it to be a rotation of at least 1 month. There's a lot of work there involved in getting licensing between a lot of parties, the board, everything, the trainee, and it just doesn't make sense for it to come for 1 week and have all that work involved, or 1 or 2 weeks. So we are hoping that we can make maybe some exceptions to that rule. However, we are striving for at least 1 month for out of state visiting residents. And then just the last thing, the PLAs for visiting residents do not go through MedHub. That is, through me and DocuSign. And at this point, I'm not sure if in the future they will be prepared through MedHub, but right now they're not.
and those are a completely different agreement than, if you have not had a visiting resident, the PLA template is different. It is what we call a 3-way agreement. It's the sponsoring institution that's sending the learner, UMass Chan Medical School and UMass Memorial Medical Center. So there's 2 legal departments that were involved, 3 if you include the sponsoring institution when they do their review. And we do not make modifications to that template, given that there are potentially 3 legal teams that would need to review. And, if it gets caught up in that sort of legal review process, like, the person's never going to get here. So it is something that we try to maintain, if at all possible. Sometimes we've had people say, oh, well, they want to change this one word or that word, or add this little tagline to this paragraph. Minor things like that I can work with institutions to take care of, but when people want to add a whole section of text, like, that's going to have to get reviewed multiple times. So I just want to let you know, to let your folks know when you're having discussions with them, that this is a standard template and that we are not able to make significant modifications to it.
Now, this is just a question that came to mind. Can we have a 3-year PLA with visiting institutions? Like, we always have the sleep fellow from St. Bees that
Yes.
come over. And I'm mentioning it just so that other people are aware as well, if they have like a standing agreement with someone.
We do have a few institutions that we do have like 3 years. And what I do request is just the list annually of the rotator's name and the dates of the rotation for each academic year. And then I just, add it to the existing PLA. So that is fine. And if it's from St. Bees, we just require a PLA addendum because we have the master affiliation. And that I need each year with the list of the trainees and the dates that they're coming.
Right. Did you have anything else to go over, Deborah?
No, I don't think so at this time. So just
Yeah,
if
I don't
there's
think so either.
any questions.
It's already 9:44. We've had a lot to go over. So I'm actually going to pivot and let Melissa take the lead now. I know she has a couple of items. So I want to make sure we don't miss at least some key things before we break.
Okay, great. So I want to say thank you to everyone for all of their work during the onboarding and orientation process. I know how much work it is and how much information is getting circulated in that very short span of time. So I really appreciate everything that everyone did and your responsiveness to requests. I will be preparing a debrief survey and sending that out to everyone just to get your thoughts on how things worked. Trying to find out what worked well and obviously where we can improve for next year. So just be watching for that, and please be honest with your thoughts and feedback, because comments and things that have been shared in person at these meetings or through similar surveys, we have implemented some of those changes, and I think that we get a little bit better each year, but there's always room, for more improvement. So please take time once you see that survey to give your feedback. I did several updates at the GMEC, so if you were on that meeting, I apologize, this is going to be repetitive for you, but just looking forward to GME Professionals Day, which will be celebrated at UMass Chan on Wednesday, August 16th. It's celebrated nationally on the third Friday of August, but historically, when we have celebrated it on a Friday in August, as you can imagine, lots of people taking 3-day weekends or weeks vacation, and we would lose people. So trying to, change it up this year and do it midweek. So hopefully more people will be able to attend. As part of the celebration, we will be recognizing 2 coordinators with recognition awards. We have 6 really outstanding nominees this year, and we will be reviewing those nominations on July 24th as a GME office and making selections. The Coordinator Advisory Committee, as part of our process, did a pre-review. We discussed the nominations, and we do have a couple recommendations to make to the GME office at the time that the reviews are done. So once selections are made, I will do outreach to the recipients as well as the program directors who nominated them and let them know that they will be recognized on August 16th. Really want to emphasize just accurate time reporting for residents and fellows. I appreciate everybody's efforts in May to go through the June 30th accrual balances. I think that some programs realized at that time that, there were reporting mistakes or misses that were made when they saw what was actually on the books for payroll to pay out those final vacation balances. So just really want to make sure that you're kind of keeping on top of that, and very important that you're tracking the time in MedHub, but keeping in mind that MedHub and HR Direct, which is the payroll system, don't talk to each other. And therefore, the most important thing is that, the time in the HR system is accurate. So please keep up with that. And when there are things that are missed, if you can do a payroll correction, timesheet correction as soon as possible, that would be really helpful. Ed allowance reimbursements, I just wanted to make a quick reminder about this. Annually, they get their $1,000, and that happens in October. The transfer happens in October, though they can be using their allowance like during the academic year, and the departments can accommodate those reimbursement requests, even though the money isn't going to hit until sometime in the fall. Really important that if they need to be reimbursed, that they are getting that paperwork to you or whoever in your department processes those within a year's time. They should not be waiting, 18 months and saying, oh, I never got reimbursed for the blah, blah, blah that I bought. If that happens, they will be taxed. So they aren't going to get the same amount of money back that they were intending when they first purchased whatever the item was. So really important that you just remind people, if you know that someone has used their ed allowance or planned to use it and did something, remind them to make sure to get you the receipts so you can process those for them.
Melissa, quick question on that. Sorry to interrupt you. It's Hilda.
Yeah, hi, Hilda.
Is that in writing somewhere? Because I've been telling my folks that for years. They don't listen to me. So is that something in writing about the taxing part?
Yeah, someone else was in this situation. I think someone in psychiatry. I was dealing with Deb Conniff. She asked the same thing. I'll have to go to the clinical medical group fiscal people because it's part of the policy. Now, what Deb Conniff told me though was that if it was going to be taxed, the clinical side said that they would have to go through the medical school and use a medical school speed type. And I don't know if that's because it goes through their payroll, but
I was told something similar too with not CME in the
Yeah.
traditional sense, like if they pay for a conference or an exam or something, but
Yeah.
travel reimbursement. One of my folks they traveled and then they waited forever to give me their stuff and it was too late. It was past the time and it had to go through a different speed type. It had to go through payroll because they were being taxed.
Yep. Yeah, so I'll do a little investigating on that because like I said, she had the same question and I'll see if I can find something and send it out to you so that you will all have it in the event that the question comes up. So,
Great. Thanks so much, Melissa.
yep,
Appreciate it.
you're welcome.
There's some stuff in the chat stating it is taxed for travel, not for regular CME. But I know, like when I travel, it's only taxed if you submit the receipts over 120 days. So for travel, they're a bit more specific on the dates.
Yeah, so for travel, if it's more than 120 days, they will definitely tax it. Clinical will bounce it back and will tell you to process through the school because it needs to go through the payroll. So it gets properly deducted. And when you do it through the school, you do it through PeopleSoft and you need to just mark it as a taxable expense. You don't even mark it as a hotel or flight or anything like that. I just went through that with one of my star fellows. And it's been a whole ride. So just make sure you tell your learners that this will happen and it will take some time for them to get their tax reimbursement.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually tell my trainees when I know they're traveling, the moment they come back, I send them an email, get me your stuff. I need it by next week or else there's going to be a delay. Because I also like to buffer it for delays on my end if I can't get to processing the paperwork right away.
I do it too, but they don't pay attention.
That's fair.
So just a couple other brief things. Really important if you can please check the list that was sent out on Tuesday, I believe, with anyone who has not signed up for health insurance, any of your new people that have just joined us. They have a deadline of tomorrow. I believe it might be Saturday, but I don't even want to tell them that because if they end up trying to go into the system on a Saturday and they get some sort of an error, there's not going to be anybody that's able to help them. So they need to do their health insurance selections today or tomorrow to ensure that they have coverage if they need it. Karen Wilson in benefits is on vacation this week, but she's been sending me those reports. So I'm hoping to get one from her today, which I'll send out, to anybody who needs to see it. And hopefully the number has dwindled considerably. Again, if people don't need the insurance, it's just helpful if they let us know. There are medical students that may still be covered on their medical student plan, or they're covered on their parents' plan until they're 26. Like there's all different situations where they may not need it. But if they miss this opportunity, they will have to wait till open enrollment in the spring. And they really don't want to go without coverage if they're working in the hospital. We're starting to have health insurance reimbursements roll in. So for the new people that are coming in, if they want to have insurance for the July, August time period where there's a gap before their GIC insurance will take effect on September 1st, they can purchase a Mass Health Connector plan, they can COBRA, they can use their medical student plan. and submit receipts and bills to GME. Megan will be processing those and submitting them to clinical AP. They will get a paper check in the mail, usually about 3 weeks after it's submitted. And you just want to remind them that they will be getting it through a check through UMass Memorial Medical Center. It's not going to be in their paycheck. Receipts that we are requiring need to be more than just what's printed off the website that says this is the amount. It does need to be a bank statement that shows that the amount came out of their account, or like a credit card statement that shows that the payment was made. So once we have that plus a W-9, Megan will send those out, or Deb Porter has been helping us with that. They need to fill out that W-9 because they're not a UMass Memorial employee, and UMass Memorial needs that on file in order to pay them by check. So it is a pretty simple process. If you have questions or they have questions, they can certainly reach out to us. And also really important, as they approach their September 1st date where their insurance will be active, there are 2 files in the Google Drive to help them select a primary care physician. So there's an Excel sheet that has community medical group physicians in the area that are taking new patients. And there's also one for internal medicine Benedict Building, adult providers. So they can review either of those lists. You can send those out to them if they are having a hard time finding a PCP. It's really important for them to get one on the books. And once they've made their selection and they know what their insurance will be, they can at least, start exploring providers to make sure that their insurance is accepted there. And they won't be able to necessarily make an appointment until they receive their insurance card, but at least they will have done some of the legwork to make sure that they will have, someone to go to in the event that they become ill. The MassPat and death certification requirements that I sent out a week or so ago, I haven't heard from anyone that there's been issues with that. Just a disclaimer, GME does not create the documents that I provided to you. They are created by the Decedent Affairs group for the death certification, and then also by Medical Staff Services for the MassPat tutorial, which is, I think, just a link to the website. They do a review of it each year for me and tell me, yeah, it looks good, or we have to make these changes. And then I send it out for you to share with the residents and fellows. I haven't heard from anybody that they're having any issues doing any part of that. So I hope that that's a good sign that people are doing it and that there are no broken links or anything like that, because we've dealt with that in the past. So if anyone does stumble upon an issue, let me know. They do need their DEA number and their license number when they go in to do the MassPat. So please, you have access to it in MedHub. If they're asking, you go to the certifications tab, you'll be able to see their license number as well as their DEA number. If they look it up in MedHub, they have a different view. And I don't know, Cassie may know off the top of her head, but like they don't see it in their certifications, in the certifications tab. They see it somewhere else.
I'll show you what it.
Okay.
Yep. Give me 1 second. I'll show you what it looks like on their end. So when residents need to find any information of their own, this is what the resident page looks like. They go to review records. This is what it looks like. It's all their data. Contact information is next. Then their education certification. They can get their license number, all that information. And then if they need a copy of it, down here in shared files. So anything you upload to form files and you give residents access to is going to be available in here. So they have access to their own information, their BLS stuff, anything that you add in that certifications area will show up over here.
And they see their DEA too, Cassie? I don't see the DEA there.
Possibly. I just might not have a DEA number in here. Hold on 1 second. Let's find out. Give me 1 second. Oh my goodness.
And I believe when they enter the DEA into the MassPat system, they don't use their 3-digit suffix. So they have the hospital prefix and then their 3-digit number. I think it's just the hospital prefix that they enter into the system.
Sorry. Yeah, there just is no DEA listed here. So if there
Okay.
was, it would show up there. So yes, they do have access to that.
Yeah. And then I will be preparing an off-cycle email for those folks who have people coming in 8191, just with some basic information that you can use to make sure that you're covering all your bases with them. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out to me. The other thing, just 2 quick things. Stacy mentioned the GME retreat this year is going to focus on, it's going to be strategic planning, really focus on the vision and where we want to go as a graduate medical education group at UMass Chan. So we are trying to finalize a date for that. I think it's going to be October 25th, which is a Wednesday. So we'll be doing a save the date very shortly for that. And then there's been a lot of inquiries recently around whether or not we want to offer a hybrid option for GMEC. So there is a survey right now on your main homepage in MedHub. So there's I think there's 3 options. Either I have no opinion, I would be interested in having a hybrid option available, or I would only participate through Zoom. We will continue to always have it through Zoom, but the hybrid would just mean we would have an in-person location here on the university campus where people could come in person, and then we would be broadcasting it through Zoom. So if you could give us some input on that as well. It went out to program directors, and I'll be checking with the resident reps as well. And then we'll let you know if that's going to happen, maybe by the fall. Does anyone have any questions before we end?
Lisa, this is Shirley from OB. I have 2 quick questions. Can you hear me?
You're very quiet, but yes, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So my 2 questions. One is about the I-9 form. Have you heard from the HR people? So
I have not heard back from Jean O'Donnell. She's the one that was very open to having sessions to do the I-9 paperwork over at Memorial. So I will follow up with her again.
Okay.
Shirley,
Just because of the timing that they gave, it's almost impossible for the people to go to South Street or anywhere else. It will be helpful if they can come here once.
Yeah, she was very willing to do it. So I think that when that went out, it was probably just not taking into consideration that she had agreed to do something special for residents and fellows, but she hasn't yet responded to me. As soon as I hear from her, I can work out those details and send it to out to all the coordinators, but it will only be applicable to the ones that are at Hanneman.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now, my last question, I'm asking again, not to be a pain. One of my residents emailed me twice. It's when to expect this for the people who had extra time, graduated with those extra days. So is the payment will be in a paycheck, it will be in a check, or will it be in payroll? I thought it was gonna be the last paycheck, but she emailed me and saying that she wasn't, so do you know?
Right, the last check for those terminating, even for moonlighting payments, will be by direct deposit, as long as the trainee still has their account open, which
Okay.
is suggested. So otherwise, they don't issue any paper checks unless the bank has been closed and the direct deposit information is no longer valid.
Yeah, and so Shirley, are you saying that she expected to have extra vacation days paid out to her?
Yes,
Okay, so anything that she would have been owed if she had time on the books would have been in the check she's getting today.
okay, so.
I mean, I'm
today-
sorry, on Friday, 7/21. And in that check, payroll has told me that that's all that will be in, that's all it will be for those folks who've graduated, right? Because they
Okay,
haven't
that makes
worked
sense.
the last couple of weeks. So it will be, if they had moonlighting submitted, if they had vacation time payout, that will be in that direct deposit.
Okay, that makes sense. She looked on the last paycheck, that was like 2 weeks ago, which, so I'll let her know to,
Yep, so yeah, so on the 7/7 check, she would not have gotten any vacation. The only thing that would have been in there was moonlighting if something had been submitted prior.
okay,
And then in the 7/21 check, it will be any of the outstanding vacation and any other additional compensation.
thank you.
You're welcome. And that's it for me. I know we're a little over time, so. Monique, did you have anything?
No, not at the moment. I know we're over time, so I don't want to keep you guys any longer. And I apologize that my camera's off. I'm actually on another Zoom meeting, so I'm multitasking here because I had another one start at 10. But you know, just thank you for joining us. If you guys have any other questions, don't hesitate to reach out. This meeting had a lot of information, so I'm sure it will be uploaded and we can share with those that were unable to join us. And I'm excited that I'll get to see you guys in August in real life, which is great.
In real life. Yep. Great. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye.
Bye.